Good morning to you, wherever you are. Thanks very much for joining us this morning. We're here for the second webinar of the HOOP Urban Circular Bioeconomy Webinar Series. My name's James Ling, working for Greennovate Europe here in Brussels. We're a not-for-profit network dedicated to sustainable innovation. We're the proud dissemination partner of the HOOP project, a Horizon 2020 project looking to boost innovation in the urban circular bioeconomy. So, as I mentioned, today is the second webinar in our series of 4 webinars that we're hosting during the month of May. Today, focusing on evaluating and improving the circular economy in cities and regions. We have another webinar later this week and a final webinar next week. Hopefully, you'll join us for those as well. Just to explain briefly the organization of the webinar, we're recording the webinar. The recording and the slides will be circulated afterwards, so no stress about that. As an attendee, you're in listen-only mode, but please send us your questions via the Q&A module. We have time set aside to put these questions to our speakers. We'd like to hear from you. So I'm not going to waste any further time with an introduction. We're going to jump straight into our presentations. So the first presentation today is coming from Viale from Bax and Company, who's going to present the circularity label that they have developed within the HOOP project. So when you're ready, Marine, the floor is yours.
Thank you, James. I'll share my screen now. All right. Thank you. So good morning. I'm Marine Viale, and I'm an innovation consultant at Bax, and we're a partner in the HOOP project. So today I'll be talking about the HOOP circularity label developed within HOOP, which is a tool, an instrument to understand the performance of a city or region when it comes to the implementation of biocircularity measures. So today I'll introduce you to this HOOP service and explain the process for applying to the label and obtaining specific recommendations on how to improve the biocircularity level of a territory. So I'll explain how it works and lead you through the different indicators that are considered in this process and wrap up with an overview of why it's valuable for cities and regions to measure their progress in becoming circular. So the goal of the label is to help cities and regions in boosting their urban bioeconomy by looking at the current status of how circular measures, green policies, and initiatives are integrated in a city or region. So it lets you know your current status, and as a next step, it also provides actionable recommendations for improvement. And it does this by identifying key areas where cities can enhance and stimulate their local bioeconomy based on input and data provided by cities. And through this assessment, what we want to do is create an environment that encourages investing in circular technologies and projects and companies that support work with products derived from biowaste. So in practical terms, the label looks at 4 criteria, which are policy, society, resource consumption, and resource management, each relating to urban bio-based waste streams, like the organic fraction of municipal solid waste and urban wastewater sludge, and cities and regions that demonstrate high maturity, and these areas are awarded with the label. So now the process for applying to the label is straightforward. Cities can apply through an online questionnaire on the Urban Circular Bioeconomy Hub platform, and that consists of 27 questions covering indicators that relate to circular policies and activities and their impacts. So going beyond just collection or recycling rates, but trying to get a more holistic picture of the current level of circularity within an area. And once you filled this in, you can submit the questionnaire. You can view your results and receive recommendations for improvement opportunities in certain topics. And once you have the results, the questionnaire is also reviewed by a third party to validate the answers. And after that, you receive the label. And from there, you can also benchmark your results with peers in the HOOP network that I'll discuss a bit more in the next slides. So the label is based on a scoring system made up of 9 circularity levels, where each one reflects the maturity of the circular bioeconomy on a European level. So scores range from 1 to 9, with level 5 being the European average. And the higher the circularity level obtained, the better a city or region is performing. And so those that score above 5 will qualify for the label, whereas if a city scores below 4, that means that the city or region has not yet met the requirements for this label, in which case you'll receive tailored suggestions for improving performance, and you can reapply once developments have been realized. So this system is a good way to measure performance against a metric that is standardized, while also discovering strengths and areas for improvement. So what does it measure? The label is based on indicators that reflect key aspects of circular economy practices. So the 4 areas of focus are policy, society or environment, consumption and waste patterns, and resource management. Policy indicators look at, for example, strategy and implementation of circular economy policies, like the Circular Economy Action Plan, financing or public expenditure, and taxation or incentives. Then society indicators look at citizen awareness and participation in circularity efforts, including coordination entities, support for waste reduction initiatives, and environmental education. Then consumption and waste pattern indicators measure household water use and organic waste production, and resource management indicators evaluate waste prevention, collection, reuse, recycling, and output quality. So again, focusing on water and organic waste streams. So this slide shows example indicators. Each one is designed to capture specific data points, which are then used to calculate the circularity level. The number and importance of indicators varies, as well as the way that they're assessed, meaning that some questions are qualitative, whereas others are quantitative. And if you go on the hub, you'll find this fun schematic of a city with icons that you can click on that will give you explanations of each indicator. The application procedure takes place completely on the hub, and it's a simple step-by-step process where each European city and region follows the same procedure. So if you go and register on the hub as a user, you'll be guided through an application form. You then fill in the questionnaire that includes measurement indicators for biocircularity at city or regional level. And the applicant will then be asked if they're a member of the HOOP network of cities and regions. If yes, they can go on to receive their results and recommendations. And if not, they'll have to register and become a member to view the results. And again, in case where the score is above a circularity level of 5, and the applicant wants to receive a verified label, they have to provide details on their inputs and the questionnaire as an evidence. And this data will then be reviewed by an independent third party, and they'll be awarded 1, 2, or 3 stars, depending on the level of maturity. So yes, the label is now available on the hub, which is a platform designed for cities and regions. And here they can apply by filling in the online questionnaire, which is just 27 questions covering the 4 dimensions of policy, society, resource consumption, and resource management. And based on the results, the circularity level will be calculated. This is a questionnaire that's been tested with lighthouses as part of the HOOP project, where feedback was gathered. This led to revised iterations of the questionnaire so that we can make sure that needs are in fact addressed and designed to support cities in achieving their goals. So here you can see what filling in the questionnaire looks like. So it's quite simple. And what are the outcomes of this process? Once a city or region has completed the online questionnaire and is a member of the HOOP network of cities and regions, you'll receive a circularity level score. And users can save their results and receive tailored advice and recommendations for improvement opportunities of their circular performance based on a gap analysis. And cities that apply for the label will be plotted on a map on the Hubs platform where you can see circularity level scores and also benchmark with peers in the HOOP network as a way to position yourself as a pioneer and, for example, attract investments and projects for the collection, treatment, and processing of biowaste. And these certified cities stand out as sustainable players in the European ecosystem and can use the label in physical and digital form to promote their practices. So yeah, it's a good way for cities working in this field for them to learn from the experiences of peers and get feedback on their application and use that as a guide for enhancing their circularity. So yeah, just to wrap up, this is a QR code for filling in the questionnaire to find out the circularity level of your city. And yes, this wraps up my presentation. Yeah, the vision and ambition of behind designing the label is to establish it as a standard in Europe for showcasing qualified cities as leaders in the circular bioeconomy by enhancing public engagement and transparency to help to stimulate investments by signaling a city or region's commitment in the field. And hopefully this helps to encourage the scaling of initiatives. So thank you for your attention. And if you have any questions, I'll be happy to answer.
Thank you so much, Marine. That was really good. I just put the link in the chat so people can go straight to the circularity label and have a little look around there. Like you say, if you have any questions for Marine, please put them in the Q&A section, and we will save all the questions up and ask them at the end of the webinar. So for now, thank you very much, Marine. And I would like to next introduce Hans Langeveld, who's going to introduce us to the world of urban metabolism. So once you're ready, Hans, the floor is yours.
Thank you so much. Good day to everybody from the Netherlands. I'm trying to share my screen. Can you see it, James?
Yeah, looks good.
Okay. So the topic is urban metabolism. I'm going to explain what it is. It is basically a concept where we identify the available resources in the context of a city as a metabolic organism, if you want. But the most important of this is, of course, what we use it for, and that's to evaluate the availability of biowaste or bioorganic waste in the cities, and then the valorization. So, okay, let's see if we now can move down. Okay. You got a second slide?
Yes, yeah, we do.
Okay. So, municipal solid waste. In the previous presentation, you heard, I think, the context and the objectives. What we want to do is realize more sustainable management of city resources. And it is important that we start by making an inventory. What do we have? Solid waste is one of the most important resources of the urban cities as we have them, not only in Europe, but also all around the world. First, what we did was make an inventory, and then we used this to start up a link to, let's say, new production lines or valorization routes. So I'm going to show what we have done, show a little bit of the results, but also I want to add a little bit on the relevance and the impact because of the current, let's say, the current way we are looking at these resources is changing rapidly. So when we look at urbanization, we can see that already more than half of the population is living in cities, and this is going to increase. The amount of waste per person is going to increase, and the share of degradable resources, including organic resources, still is quite high. We hope it can go down, but that is a very difficult and long route. So policy targets have been identified to reduce the waste volume and to enhance recycling. You can see on the HOOP website, you can see a lot about it. But we're going to focus on the situation as we have it now. This is just a reminder that disposal and treatment of waste is only the last and the least preferred option, because prevention and reuse and recycling are, let's say, more valuable. But at the end, some waste will be disposed, and it appears that currently that still is a lot, and a lot of that can still be used. So what are we talking about? We talk about organic fraction of municipal solid waste. There's also a non-organic fraction, but we're focusing on organic materials. What can we do with this type of material? We can make turn it into compost. I'm going to show you some about that, but this can also be used in so-called anaerobic digestion. That's a procedure, a process where in the absence of oxygen, organic matter is degraded or decomposed or cut into smaller pieces, ending up in methane. And as we will see, biomethane currently is a very important resource, also in the context of the political situation and the war in Ukraine. Also, we have water, and water is an important part of the urban metabolism, especially the wastewater and the sludge that is in the wastewater recovery process, that it can be harvested. All this material can also be used to generate to produce bioplastics or biomaterials on dedicated outputs and even higher up. There's a lot of attention on this new valorization routes in the HOOP project, but my focus will be on the last one, because in the end there is always organic matter that has no other use and that we have to treat, or that we have to find a way to get it at another place. So what is urban metabolism? To be honest, I didn't know the term before I started into this project. It is an overview of technical and socio-economic processes occurring in cities. So as I said, the city as an organism, resulting in then the way the city is performing, the production of energy, elimination of waste. But by using this concept, we can have a very good insight in the metabolism or in the streams that are going around in the cities. And we have done this for all the HOOP cities, and it has been a very interesting exercise, and the results are available on the website. Just a reminder about circularity. Circularity is very important. It saves energy, it saves money. It is also a very good way to reduce, let's say, the environmental impact in terms of health issues. So this is very valuable and cannot be stressed enough. Part of this, and that is not maybe what everybody has in mind, part of this is also occurring to the bioeconomy. So that is to the organic matter that we use. It could be wood, could be food, could be all kinds of matters that we use in our cities, but also outside of the cities. But that we use, and it can be reduced, can be reused, and in the end it has to be looking for a final way where it can further serve. So what kind of waste streams are we looking at? At the household waste, we can look at biodegradable waste from gardens, but most important is food waste. We also have organic fraction of mixed waste, but that is the most important flow. In some countries like mine, the Netherlands, a separate collection of food waste is much more important because it gets more attention and people are really doing this. But in many situations, we'll see that all the organic fraction, all the organic matter is ending up in the mixed waste. And there's also wood and textile that in increasingly volumes is being recycled and reused. For example, wood in the north of Europe. So that is also an important element. So there's a combination of all kinds of sources from food, gardens, parks, and consumer goods, and it's ending in several places. And how are we going to analyze that? So what you see here is an overview of the resources, the sources of the biological materials. Could be industry, could be retails, could be consumers, or could be public space. Then we have a phase where it's all collected, and then we have options for treatment. I already mentioned sewage, so water treatment, but other options apart from composting include dumping and also incineration. So there's a lot of options, and there's a lot where we can steer in order to get to make the most of, let's say, the principle of recycling and valorization. How does it look in practice? So this is a basic schedule, if you want, where you can see where the material is going around, how it's collected. You see it's entering the cities, and there are different routes where it can be treated, collected, and put to use. What we have done is make an overview of the resources in the cities of the WHO project, who have collected and shared their data with us. So all kind of data, and we combined this with general data about, food use, water use, and utilization options. So we put it in Sankey diagrams, and we are also using several indicators to evaluate what the outcome of that is. So there are different types of elements in the analysis that are relevant. You can see that here. Not only the type of the biomass of the waste, but also its legal status, its quality and composition, its distribution, the way it's collected, the cost, if there's any cost involved, and also the cost of collection, the current use, and the treatment options. In the analysis, we have used several types of information. One level is the context, so that is where is the location of the cities, how many people are living in the cities, what is the economic situation. Then biophysical characteristics, land use, the area, the green area, and the let's say the way the buildings are covering up space. Then we looked at use of water, food, and energy and materials. I've already mentioned a little bit on this. For this, we used national statistics and also urban information. But as you can imagine, there's no database that is collecting info and presenting information on the food use of a certain city, because that is not separated from the national context. So we have to use the higher level. Then we look at the ownership, who is treating what, where is it going? And that is an important element to use in the analysis, because you want to follow all the biomass that is getting into the city. We also looked at policies, but I'm not going into that a lot. So this is an overview of, let's say, a generalized Sankey diagram. You see all the input coming on the left side, could be wood, could be generated in parks and gardens, could be the water that we use, and it is the food, obviously, and other materials. And then where is it coming to? Part of the food is going to the food waste, but most is going to the mixed waste. Mixed municipal waste, as I said, is containing a large organic fraction. Wood can be collected separately, but also can be ending up in the waste. And Garden and Park is, let's say, basically following the same options. This is an overview of the way we have presented the data, or the way we have treated the data, and some of the outcomes. So, as I said, most of the biomass and the organic matter is recovered in the mixed municipal waste, although there are large differences between the cities and countries, as I said. So there's also separate biowaste collection, but most is in the mixed fraction. In the mixed flow. Almost half of the organic matter is composted. I was surprised by that, which is interesting. There are also other options, but at least it is come to use. And then anaerobic digestion, so that is the production of biogas without any oxygen in separate units, is gaining importance, but not very relevant, with one exception. So there is no biowaste is being landfilled, but there's a lot is also being burned. I'm going to skip this. You see here some pictures and some figures. A quarter of the food is ending up in waste, which is quite a lot, and there's a lot of room for improvement over here. And the selection of, let's say, the separate collection of wood is also very high. So that was surprising and a good outcome. Then about biogas and anaerobic digestion. As I said, it is not currently very much used in the context of urban waste management in Europe, but this is an overview that we prepared for another project, and this is actually not for Europe, it's for Kenya. But as you can see here, there's a lot of potential in all kind of resources. On the lowest rows, you see tertiary, so that is post-consumer waste. So if we focus on that, we can see that food waste, cereal waste, vegetable oils, all kind of waste, and also the mixed waste, they have a very high potential methane production per ton of dry matter. And most of the dry matter is what they call volatile solid, so that can be converted. So I just wanted to share this with you, because what you can see here is that only for one country, and this is even not Europe, you can see that the potential is more than 5 billion cubic meters of methane, and that is very relevant in the context of the current political situation. So what we see is that the wastewater treatment, and I mentioned this before, is one important source of biomethane also. And the reason for this, I think, is that in wastewater treatment facilities, you can see that the sludge, so that is the organic matter that is being harvested, has no use. In fact, it is a big issue. You can see on the picture on the right, on the lower part, you have the aerobic treatment. So there's a lot of aeration. That is where it's white. So there's a lot of microorganisms doing the cleaning up of our wastewater. And then you can see in the top of the figure that the decomposition of the sludge, let's say the collection of the sludge, is taking place because it has to settle, it has to sink down. So why is this important? Because the sludge still has a huge potential for biogas production. And we can see in some cases, and in an increasing number of cases, the cities and the wastewater treatment facilities are looking at it. So this is one of the dashboards we prepared. It's nothing compared to the more advanced work that has been presented before, so I'm going to skip this a little bit before I stop on the relevance and, let's say, the policy and the economic context. So this is an example of a Sankey diagram for HOOP, and then you can see that on the left side, the materials, the food, the garden parks, the wood and the water, all are entering into the cities, and then you can see on the green column where what form it takes, and then in brown you can see the treatment and the collection and where it's going. So you can see on top a lot is going to the mixed municipal waste in this case, and that can be used for, in this case, for incineration, producing heat and electricity. And that is relevant because in the context of climate change, climate mitigation, we want to reduce let's say, the use of fossil fuels. So this is one option. I don't think it is the only option, or let's say the best option, because I'm, as you may have guessed, very into anaerobic digestion, but you can see here the amount of organic matter that's going into that is not very much. But you can see that the sewage sludge, more than 33 kiloton, 33,000 ton of the sewage sludge annually is used in anaerobic digestion treatments as producing biogas and the digested. So the digested is the end result after the digestion that can be used on soils. Why is that relevant? We have an issue of soils in Europe, but also around the world, especially on organic matter in the soils. I'm not going to dive too much into that, but you can see here that there's a trend going from the northeast and the north to the south, and the south, northwest to the southeast, and from north to south, of a lower share of organic matter. And organic matter is important. It is being, let's say, it is being mineralizing at an average of 2% of year and per year. And we are currently facing a situation where the policy is putting more attention of getting more organic matters in the soils. Why? One is carbon sequestration. So it's a very good way to store your carbon, but it's also good to improve the structure of the soil, the water holding capacity. And in this context, it is a very good way to be able to have a more robust soil in the face of climate change. So it's good for climate adaptation. What you can see here, again, this is for a different project, that if we have more organic matter in the soil, then also soil erosion is reduced. And as you can see, soil erosion is also a problem. This is water erosion. The topsoil is being flushed away by the rain. It is a major problem in south of Europe, especially, for example, in Italy, where over 600 million euro costs are made or damage is done annually. And more organic matter in the soils is also good for this. Okay, so to conclude, there's a lot of organic matter. Most of it is still ending in the municipal solid waste, and it can be used for different ways. Of course, we try to reduce the amount of waste. We try to make available valorization routes, and we're working on that. But at the end, the material can be used, let's say, for soils. If not directly, then it can be used, for example, with other steps in between. We used urban mechanism as a way to analyze the amount of waste and the way that is treated. And we can see that in the context of HOOP, the information and the outcomes are used by the cities and by the developers and the policymakers to work out routes to get a more sustainable management system where, let's say, less is going to without any value. We have a lot of products of the project you can see here. I would like to thank you for your attention. This work was not only done by my colleagues, but also by Miguel from Setema. So I would like to acknowledge his role in the work that is presented here. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Hans, for your presentation. very interesting. So we have a bit of time now for questions. So if you have any questions for either of our speakers, please add them in the Q&A section here below. So I'd like to invite also Marine to join us and Hans to come back, please. And yeah, don't run off just yet. You still have some more work to do. I had first one general question for both of you. Within the project, you've been working directly with the cities to do these studies and for them to receive the circularity label. I wondered what their feedback has been, what they found particularly useful or not useful, and how that interaction has been for you during the project. I don't know who wants to start.
Yes, I think I can start. So when it comes to the label, for example, the challenge that we found is that cities is the collection of data, and so for us, we split the indicators looking at policy, society, resource consumption, and resource management. For the resources, data can be found, for example, if you reach out to waste management agencies, but especially at the society level, the lack of data has been quite a challenge and a barrier for incentivizing cities to fill out the label. So yeah, I would say that's something that needs to be troubleshooted.
Yeah.
Still.
Yeah, our experience, we were way in the beginning of the project. Our experience is that the project partners, that is the cities in the whole project, they had particularly problems in collecting the data. And what we found is that we have different types of, let's say, both economic but also policy units that are involved. For example, water management and waste management and city management like parks. They generally can be in 3 different institutions, which each have a different coverage geographically. So one can be larger than just one city, especially water, for example. So that can be covering several cities. So the cities don't have really access to that data, and they're not fully aware of, let's say, their part in the total, because that is not what they are focusing on. So I think what we have learned, especially in the beginning, was a lot of awareness raising that for our side, that the data collection is not organized in a way that it can be easily structured and easily combined, for example, for cities, because they will have to go to different places to collect their data. But also for the cities, I think that they are part of larger units in some cases, or organizations, where it might be relevant for them to see if they can start interaction with these institutions. So that for me is one of the most important parts. It is not very not very sexy maybe, but I think it's relevant, because if you want to know what you do and what you can improve, as Marine is showing, you have to know where you start from. And if you want to know where you are, you have to collect the data. And the data have to be, let's say, collected in a consistent way, and they have to be very, let's say, at least you want to be them as uniform as possible.
Okay, well, that's clear from both of you that there's some kind of issue there with the collection of data also, and how cities are managing that. I was wondering, so that's sort of with the collection of the data, and then obviously you presented back to the cities then kind of the results of these studies. Was there a surprised reaction, or was it somehow what they're expecting, or was there some huge revelations coming out of these results, or just curious what sort of the reaction was?
Yeah, I mean, I think when completing the label, you can sort of anticipate to a certain extent what your result will be, if it's positive or negative. For example, also answering back to the question of Lisbeth, who was asking if the circularity score is a per actor or looking at actors in a city. It's not per actor, like targeting a waste management agency or something like that. We're looking at city or regional level. So questions that you'll find in the label, for example, is there a circular economy action plan or strategy published in your city or region? Yes or no. Or if you're looking at the society indicator, you can see, it's asking whether educational institutions offer courses relating to environmental education with a focus on waste reduction, yes or no. So it's quite straightforward. And I guess through your answers, you can anticipate what your performance is like. And in the case of the label, you have your result afterwards, and also a breakdown of which dimensions are performing better and stronger than others. And if you want a more detailed overview and recommendations on how to improve, that's something that you can request as well afterwards. Yeah.
I'm not aware that we found many, or that I got many surprise reactions back. It was more that people said for the first time they saw this, let's say, especially the water and the sewage sludge was not in the scope of most of the people involved in the project. So for them, I think it was an eye-opener. Also what I heard, but that is mostly during, let's say, other communications and meetings and interactions, is that they're surprised to see what valorization routes are available. And in that sense, we see that they learn from each other. For example, from Norway, they were learning when we were in Portugal about the black soldier fly, that say, hey, this is an interesting option that you do this from food waste. You've got this larvae, and the larvae can also be used in the salmon industry in Norway. So in this sense, I have seen the most impact or the most surprises. As a scientist, I must say, usually it is quite the response that you get on the result is quite low. I'm used to that, but sometimes it is a bit disappointing, I must confess, because you work very hard to get the results, and then you share it with the cities or with the other partners, but who are maybe focusing on other parts. So usually there's not much time to reflect on the results that we have seen. But I see especially most of the surprises or most of the new insights come from the valorization options in combination with, let's say, the size of the residues. But most of the cities that and the people that I talk to, they are aware that there's a lot of valuable resources in their waste streams. They know that.
Maybe I have one last question then to finish. So the webinar was focusing on this evaluation part, but also how cities can then improve their performance in terms of biocircularity. So is there something you can pinpoint that's low-hanging fruit for cities as what was found to be maybe the fastest way or the most impactful way to make an improvement in this performance? Was there something that came up with multiple cities that was maybe a blind spot from many cities? Just if you had any insights on that would be really interesting.
I find that hard to answer. Especially, let's say, the more advanced bio-based value chains. I would assume, and I've seen it a little bit, but I've not really seen the confirmation of that, are like new insights for those involved in the HOOP project, and also I think in the HOOP hubs and the networks. But I haven't heard too much of that, to be honest.
Okay.
Yeah, and for me, because we're also involved in innovative financial engineering in the HOOP project, a key learning is to connect project developers with investors, knowing exactly what are the requirements and the unique particularities of the circular bioeconomy, so that, to remove any kind of obstacles for people wanting to enter this field, and to, really make it clear what are the requirements from both sides in order to engage and participate.
Very good. Yeah, I set you up to fail with that question, because I think what also I learned from both of the work that you've done is, obviously it's an obvious statement, but each city is very different and they have their own metabolism and their own situation. So it really needs this kind of evaluation first of their state of play, and then some tailored recommendations of how to improve. So I think that's definitely the value of both of your work, and the tools that have been created is to try and give that kind of insight into cities and regions. So I hope more cities and regions will take up these kind of tools and methodologies that we've developed during the project. And with that, I'm going to start to close the webinar. And I have one question just come in, so let's answer that one. In the case of food waste, did you examine specific types of food waste for valorization, or did you only focus on combined food waste streams? So the example is specific type of food waste, for example, vegetable waste, or did you just look at food waste as a combined stream? Hans, and if you did look at specific types, how did you structure this detailed analysis approach?
No, so we did not make a distinction between different types of food waste. I know we got the data and we used it in our analysis, so we have insight about the amount of and type of, for example, food waste, and the quality of that. And I know from other projects and other work, there's a lot of differences in the terms of value because of the composition. Is it high in oil? Is it high in starch? Or is it high in nitrogen, for example? So there's a lot of distinction to be made here, but we have not used this in our analysis because we wanted one uniform analysis that is similar for all the cities and regions. So you cannot get into that level of analysis. Normally we would do that. But although we have the data and we have looked at that, we have not presented it in our analysis.
Okay. Thank you. I think it's about time to finish up here. So thanks again to Marine and to Hans for your insights today. It's been really interesting. I'm just going to close by making a few promotions for upcoming Hoop activities. So in a couple of weeks' time, it's not far off, 2 weeks or so, we're all meeting together in Brussels to talk about these topics and many more. So you'd be very welcome to join us the 4th and 5th of June. Registration closes this week, so get in fast if you'd like to be there and join us. Aside from that, as was presented already briefly, the label and lots of the tools presented within the Hoop project can be found back on the Hoop Urban Circular Bioeconomy Hub. This is a hub that we've created to host all of the different tools that have been developed during the project. On the screen, you have a QR code where you can reach the site. I'm also adding the link in the chat. So do go there and look more closely at the label and some of these other tools that's been developed. And finally, I point you towards the next webinars. We're back again on Thursday, looking more at the financial side of urban bioeconomy, talking about how to develop successful investment projects especially for the treatment of urban biowaste. So we'll have 2 experts with us from the project on Thursday. And next week, we're coming again to talk more about the topic of stakeholder engagement and also bringing citizens on board to co-design a urban bioeconomy. So with that, I hope we'll see you at one of these future webinars. Thank you again to our speakers. Thank you for your attendance, and see you next time. Bye-bye.